Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome to the showdown between the Skaven led by TRETCH Craventail and the Lizardmen who are going to be led by Jabba the Hutt atop his mighty steed. So without further ado, let's jump right into this match and have some fun. So here in the front line, I do have a couple groups of the Stormvermin with the swords and shields, and I definitely feel like they're a pretty good pick against the Lizardmen. Number one, if you're facing off against a very heavy kite build with chameleon skinks, they're going to be somewhat durable against that missile fire. They actually only have bronze shields, but that still helps quite a bit against harass fire. And I think that their shields are able to block the skink cohort javelins, although I don't think it actually helps them against pterodon riders, since I think their bolas count as like kind of explosives. But regardless, pretty durable here in the front line, and they also trade very well with Saurus. With 90 armor, they're going to be more durable against clan rats, or not against clan rats, but than clan rats. So they'll be a little bit more sturdy against Saurus warriors in the front line, and actually wonder who would win in a straight up trade. I feel like these Stormvermin might have a slight advantage simply because of their armor, their better combat stats. So 36 and 44 compared to, let's see, 28 and 34. So pretty good there. And of course, they have 30 more models. So I think that the Stormvermin would definitely do a pretty good job. Although Saurus do have better leadership. So there's some back and forth there. But very safe choice here in the front line. A couple of groups of the Stormvermin. We also have one group of Halberds here on the far side. So I meant to put them in the back, but I guess they're going to be fighting in the front line here. So the Halberds are always a pretty good choice against the Dinos. I don't like them as much in the frontline engagement because, again, their combat stats are relatively low against standard infantry without their bonus first large, but pretty good against Bastillodons and Zlok and all sorts of big scary dinosaurs. So I always think that you should bring at least one group of the Stormvermin with Halberds. What I, intended to do before the game was put some of the Plague Monks up front, put the Halberds back here and adjust accordingly, but regardless, they'll be okay in the front line. Their 90 armor should be somewhat helpful against some of the Saurus. And I wonder, do they have the same HP? 740? 7, yeah, so they actually have the exact same HP pool as the regular Stormvermin. In the secondary line here, I do have the Plague Monks. So the Plague Monks I feel like are pretty good against the Lizardmen as well. If they take the initial charge of enemy Saurus or dinosaurs, they can get run over pretty quickly. But if you have them in kind of a secondary position like this, so basically I want to get in there with the Stormvermin and some of the heavier armored troops here, and then follow up with the Plague Monks to get their bonus first infantry and let them kind of engage without just getting punished. Granted, that's how you have it on paper, but like Mike Tyson said, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth or something along those lines here. So we'll see if the Plague Monks, I don't know if that was his exact quote, but it was something along those lines. For our leadership, we do have TRETCH Craventail. So TRETCH, I feel like isn't a bad choice. I think Skrulk is still going to be objectively better, simply because Liber Bubonicus and the Rod of Corruption are just so damn good, and he also brings your caster, all in one package. But TRETCH isn't going to be bad either. He does have a bonus first large, massive melee defense of 70, charged defense against large foes. So if they have like Krokar or Mazdamundi and they're trying to just punish your lord, TRETCH is going to be very difficult to take out. I've had countless games against TRETCH where I've just been kind of clubbing on him with 3 or 4 characters. Why is he not going down? Why is he not dying? And I feel like TRETCH is pretty tough for sure. We have an assassin just for the trophy heads. A plague priest is going to be our caster here, and he does have the summoning of the, what is it called, pestilent rebirth or something for the plague monks. I think it is, yeah, pestilent birth. And then we also have the blessed with filth, and he also has the plague furnace effect. He does need to be in melee for that, but it's still pretty good against the dinos. You do have to watch out for enemy anti-large dinosaurs, so if there's a Krokar or something, you can get in some trouble with the plague priest. Hell Pit Abomination to fight dinosaurs, and we do have a couple rat ogres and then some Skaven slaves on the flanks. For my opponent's army, he does have 2 pterodon riders, which are going to be very annoying since I forgot to bring any slingers. I knew I should have brought one group just to keep him honest, but these guys are just going to sit and bombard my flanks here. He's got a couple cold one riders. Cav are always pretty good against Skaven. They're a slow army, so if he's able to get some good cycle charging with these cold one riders on my Stormvermin with the swords and shields, or the plague monks, that could be very good for him. Front line is going to be a combination of Saurus warriors and skink cohorts with javelin, so he's going to be raining some hot poisonous fire. He has a couple Bastillodons here. The Feral Bastillodons also a good choice in my opinion because they're very cheap. They cost $650. They cause fear and terror. They bring armor piercing, and just let him rampage and have some fun. I mean, look how excited he looks. He's a happy boy. Got a couple of those. One group of Temple Guard here in the back. Jabba on Zlok with the Combat of Cassandora, Apotheosis, Arcane, and Forging and Nets. So going pretty wide on the spells, and that's pretty much it. Let's get this battle underway. So on the flanks immediately, you can see my opponent is going to be going after the Plague Monks with the Bolus, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he's going after these guys, which doesn't do a ton of burst damage, but if they just sit on those guys over the course of a long game, yeah, thankfully the AI of these guys is shooting in the back here, but frontline engagement is almost underway. The Stormvermin are advancing, but again, Jabba could potentially net me down. On the far side, I saw that his Cold One Riders and his Clever Girls, these Feral Cold Ones who I actually missed in the introduction there, kind of posturing, so I send my halberds out there. Over here, the same thing is happening. So he did actually charge in to get some free kills on my Skaven slaves, but I followed up with the rat ogres, trying to kind of fend him off. And these aren't the spear riders, so they don't have a bonus versus large. And it looks like the rat ogres are actually doing more damage to my fellow Skaven slaves here, so that's a little bit funny. In the main line, I do get caught with the nets of Amnitok, and it gets a pretty good wrap. So he wraps up my plague priests, TRETCH, my assassin, and plague monks in the back line. So he's probably going to cast a ruination of cities right here. That's what most people do. The other group of the Stormvermin is going to get into the main line. start fighting against these Saurus warriors, and it should be a pretty good fight for me. In the Hellpit Abomination, I figured I would just charge him in and let him slap some of these Saurus up, and from there he could just, maneuver onto the Bastillodon in the back. Ruination of Cities going down in the back line, hitting a bunch of my Skaven, and I am now out of the net, so I'm going to be advancing with these Storm Vermin. And the Clever Girls in the back get a nice little charge, and are going to be feasting on some of my Plague Monks, so very good maneuvering from my opponent. But the Clever Girls aren't really great sustained combat, and they do Rampage. Plague Monks obviously have much better stats, so I was like, okay, I'm going to take this trade. I'm probably going to take some damage, and most of the damage is coming from the Pterodon Riders, but I'm like, I'm going to fight. They're going to Rampage, it's going to be a free kill, and at least I get them off the battlefield. In the meantime, my Storm Vermin are screening out his Cav, and some of these Skaven slaves are going to come pin down these Feral Cold Ones. The main line engagement, the Kaiju battle is underway. The Hellpit Abomination is going to be attacking Lord Jabba. And TRETCH Graventail, if I'm not mistaken, is kind of in the pits here in the Plague Furnace. Is just punting some of these dinosaurs. And the Mortis Engine effect is underway, so it's going to be draining all of these guys and doing a pretty good job. My opponent actually did use Arcane Unforging on my caster here, so I wasn't able to use spells right out of the gate, so very, very good stuff there. But yeah, TRETCH is going to be pretty good at kind of helping hold things down here. You can see that these Skink cohorts do buckle under the pressure of the Storm Vermin, which is to be expected. And it looks like the shield of the old ones is going to be going down as well. And some of these Skinks are kind of sitting in Overwatch, and I'm sure they'll be throwing some Javelins. And it looks like there's going to be a Banishment in the back of my Storm Vermin. But yeah, they're starting to buckle a little bit under the pressure of those more elite Temple Guards coming in. On the flanks, it went pretty well. We were able to fend off the Clever Girls, but it looks like the Storm Vermin are being kited a little bit by the Cold Wind Riders. So a little bit unfortunate I wasn't able to catch those guys. So very good maneuvering from my opponent, and he's probably going to get a ton of value on these guys right here. On the far side, the Plague Monks are fighting some of the Cav as well with some of the Storm Vermin, so they're fending off. You just see that one rat just get punted. But these Cold Wind Riders coming in, the Bolas and Overwatch are doing some pretty good damage against my Plague Monks, but I should be somewhat durable here. The Cold Wind Riders really don't have the best sustained combat stats, so even Plague Monks should be able to fend those guys off. Plague Fern has taken a bit of damage. Unfortunately, Jabba the Hutt was able to do some work, but I did get the Hellpit Abomination with Bless with Filth in here, so some of the poison damage and the anti-large and good armor piercing should be good against the mighty Hutt. I mean, I guess I have a Skinks up there kind of hanging out. Cold Blood does go off, but I also have trophy heads on him, so he's literally like 0 and 0 on his melee attack right now. I think that's the first time I've ever seen it be like completely 0, which is pretty funny, but TRETCH is doing pretty good. He's in good shape, just kind of ratting around the battlefield with his pitchfork. You can see he's going to be scurrying. Let's see where he's going. I can't remember where I sent. I think I sent him after Jabba to help out, but he just kind of overshot his target a little bit. On the far side, my Storm Vermin and Plague Monks are able to fend off these Cold Wind Riders. That was definitely pretty good to get rid of those mobile threats. But Jabba the Hutt, a pretty mobile, force, I think his speed is like, what is it, 50? Yeah, that's pretty mobile. He comes over here, jumps in with the Cold Wind Riders, the Feral Bastillodon, and the Saurus. And I do have my Halberds here, which are doing a pretty good job. I mean, they're fighting Cav, they're fighting, large dinosaurs. They're definitely in their element. But with Jabba here, it's going to be a little bit scary. Yeah, you can see he's probably going to just march through these guys and probably do some pretty good damage with his Horned Beast right there, or his Horned Beast. I don't know why I say Horned sometimes. Up here, the Hellpit Abomination's fighting pretty hard. We're able to cleave some of these angry dinosaurs. The Plague Priest is in good shape. TRETCH Graventail's in good shape. And I have a nice little pocket of Rat Ogres, but it looks like he's about to run out of ammunition on these Pterodon Riders. So he's most likely just going to jump in melee and try and buy some time. But the bounce power is a little bit in my favor here. It looks like the Pterodactyls are going to be jumping in to fight. I think he was just trying to get a rear charge to break some of my leadership. As Zlok does push in there and go after my Plague Furnace. Definitely not a great engagement for the Plague Furnace, but the Hellpit Abomination is in hot pursuit. Should be able to provide some anti-large and armor piercing against Jabba, but just all of the pterodactyls are swarming. Look at them coming down from the skies, but they're not going to last long. These guys are pretty terrible in melee combat. Well, I mean, they do have okay combat stats, but against something as powerful as a Hellpit Abomination, who's just going to club these guys out of the skies. You can see they're getting like swatted. Just straight up Skaven fly swatter action going on here. In the main fight, it's going well for me, also because of the Plague Furnace, which is engaged in melee, hence there's going to be a Mortis Engine effect nearby, so it's definitely very nice. And you can see a lot of the Lizardmen forces are starting to buckle. The Storm Vermin are putting up a great fight as well. And yeah, I think I've been playing a lot of games with Skaven lately. It's one of my weaker factions. I mean, I still think I'm okay at them, but I really need to learn the matchups better. I feel like Storm Vermin with these swords and shields are just good in so many matchups, especially against factions like the Lizardmen who have these high damage, low armor piercing units, and even against Norsca, I feel like these bad boys do a pretty good job. A lot of things people kind of underestimate is the fact that the Storm Vermin do have 120 models, so they can generate some really good value just by their sheer numbers alone. Plus with Filth going down, so a lot of poison all over these troops here. You can see that Zlok and Mazdamundi are going to be retreating. That is going to be all she wrote for the Lizardmen, so very well played to my opponent. It was a fun game. Even though I didn't have answers for those Pterodon Riders, I feel like we were able to weather the storm pretty good. But yeah, TRETCH was okay. I mean, had it been like Skrulk, for example, he would have been. But had I brought Skrulk, I also wouldn't have brought in the Plague Furnace, hence I wouldn't have had the Mortis Engine effect. So there is some give and take there. But yeah, I like TRETCH quite a bit. He was durable. He's not easy to kill. He does have anti-large, so even though he doesn't have the best armor piercing, he still can put up a pretty good fight against the dinosaurs. The assassin, you know, I made the mistake of in the past not bringing the assassin just to get extra infantry, but the trophy heads plus having something that can just go around and take out elite targets is just so good. I really think that most of the time you should bring an assassin. Blake Furnace did pretty good. We were able to summon, I didn't get a chance to show you guys, but we were able to summon a couple groups of the Plague Monks, which made a really big difference. We actually summoned the Plague Monks behind the Source Warriors, and we were able to pincer them with heavy anti-infantry, heavy DPS, and that really made a pretty big kind of difference in the frontline fight. Yeah, Plague Monks did good. The Storm Vermin were obviously MVPs, kind of holding things in place. The Rat Ogres also were useful against the Bastiladons as well as Locke and whatnot, so happy with that. And of course, the Elpid Abomination. He actually was the one who took off most of the HP off the big Jabba. So as far as my opponent's army, I think Mazdamundi is always a pretty good choice, but I feel like Zlok is a little bit risky in case they bring like Warp Lightning Cannons and that kind of stuff. But nonetheless, I mean, he was able to do some work and run over my infantry with him, so Jabba's just such a good lord. Source Warrior is always pretty good. He did have a couple of these Skink cohorts. I think like one or two more group of Source would have been pretty good. I'm not a fan of the Clever Girls here. I feel like they don't really have the best niche. But the Cold Wind Rider's not a bad choice. The Feral Bastiladons, I honestly liked his army quite a bit. I think there was just a couple engagements with the Hellpit Abomination and the Cav on the flanks getting screened out that were the determining factor. So anyways, very well played to my opponent. We're just going to call him the Wombler for now. I don't know why that made me laugh, but the Wombler. Look forward to running into you again in ladder. And hopefully you guys enjoyed this Skaven versus Lizardmen game. Have an excellent night, guys, and take care.